The first thing I saw was the wood grain of the hallway floor. Up close. Too close. My left cheek was pressed against it, cold and damp. Something warm trickled down my neck. I reached back and touched it. Blood. Thick and fresh. I didn't remember falling. I didn't remember standing either. The hallway was quiet. Sunlight filtered in through the blinds. My house. My floors. My blood. I pushed myself up, groaning. The wall swayed a little, or maybe I did. My cane was lying a few feet away, broken, snapped in half like a dry branch. I made it to the bathroom mirror and saw the gash. Right on the back of my head. Not deep enough for stitches, but it was open and messy. I washed the blood off, pressing a towel to the wound, and sat on the toilet to catch my breath. That's when she knocked on the door. Frank, Cassandra's voice. Sweet, smooth, wrong. Are you okay? She lived 40 minutes away, where she used to. I heard noise, she said, stepping inside before I answered. She looked at the towel, the blood. Oh no, you fell. She said it like it had already been decided. I didn't answer. My head throbbed. My eyes scanned her hands. No gloves. But the scent of bleach was strong. Too strong for just cleaning. I'll take you to urgent care, she said, grabbing my arm too quickly. That was the beginning. 2 days later, I woke up in a hospital bed with N4 in my arm and Cassandra sitting in the corner, smiling like she belonged there. Frank, she said, you gave us a scare. Us? Who the hell was us? Good thing I was there, she continued. I found you just in time. I didn't respond. I had the same feeling I used to get in the army, right before a landmine detonation. Stillness before destruction. She stood up and patted my blanket. They're keeping you for observation, just to be safe. But you're doing great. Then she looked down at her phone, typed something fast, and walked out. 9 days later, I took a cab back home. The wound was healing, but I still moved slowly. The driver offered to help me with my small suitcase, but I refused. My house, my door, my key. But when I slid the key into the lock, it didn't fit. I tried again, then harder. I turned the knob. Nothing. The door wouldn't budge. I knocked. Nothing. I rang the doorbell. The chime inside rang out, my chime, but no one answered. I stood there 5 minutes. 10. Then my neighbor, Paul, stepped out to get his mail. Frank. Yeah. He looked surprised. I thought you moved. What? Your daughter told us you were relocating. Said you weren't safe alone anymore. She's not my daughter, I muttered. He glanced at my bag. Well, I saw a locksmith here a few days ago. And movers. Big truck. They were loading things out of the garage. I didn't speak. I just turned, walked down the driveway, and kept walking. 2 blocks down, I sat on a bench and opened my phone. No messages. No missed calls. I opened my security app. Login denied. Password changed. She had changed everything. I went to the old office I kept across town, the one no one knew about. I'd use it to run my consulting business before retirement. It had dust on the windows and a deadbolt still under my control. Inside, I booted up my offline system. It was old but secure. Cassandra never touched this place. I opened the security camera backups. Hidden cameras I'd installed years ago when neighborhood crime spiked. Cassandra never knew about them. She thought the only ones were at the front door and garage. I pulled the files from the night. I hit the floor. 2:03 a.m. Hallway camera. Cassandra entering through the back door. 2:05 a.m. She walks into the kitchen, gloved. 2:06 a.m. She opens the cabinet above the stove. Removes something. 2:07 a.m. She walks out of frame toward the hallway. 2:08 a.m. The image stutters. The camera cuts out. That wasn't an accident. That was a manual override. She found it, disabled it, but she was already on video before that. And I had it. I had her. That night, I slept in the office. I laid on the old cot I used during long projects. I didn't close my eyes much. Instead, I replayed the footage again and again. I thought about the way she smiled in the hospital, the way she touched my blanket like she owned it. She wanted me out of the house. She wanted control. She didn't know who I used to be. That before retirement, I specialized in information security for Fortune 500 companies. That I knew how to hide assets, trace digital footprints, monitor behavior without raising alarms. She thought I was just an old man with a bruised head. And that was her first mistake. 9 days. That's all it took for her to change my locks, erase my access, and start emptying my life. But I was still standing, and I wasn't done that I hadn't slept properly in days. The cot in my old office creaked with every movement, and the space smelled like stale coffee and dust. But it was mine, and untouched by her. That morning I boiled water in an old kettle, poured it over instant coffee, and sat down in front of my laptop. The login screen greeted me like an old friend. Cassandra didn't have the passwords. Not here. I opened my bookmarks out of habit. The first one, realtor.com. I clicked without thinking. I used to check housing prices in the neighborhood for fun, but I wasn't ready for what I saw. Charming 4-bedroom vintage home in Forest Heights. Move-in ready. Motivated seller. I stared at the photo. It was my house, my porch, my garage. The wind chimes Marta had hung 30 years ago, still swinging in the shot. I clicked on the listing. Agent, Kayla Dempsey, private seller. Price, $589,000. Open house, Sunday 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I read every word. My blood turned to ice. Current owner recently decided to downsize. Property has been cleared and is ready for quick possession. Current owner. Downsize. I nearly spilled my coffee. She wasn't just living in my house. She was trying to sell it out from under me. I closed the listing and opened another window. Pulled up the county records database. Typed in my address. Still listed under Frank Whitmore. She hadn't transferred ownership, which meant she had no legal right to sell it. I printed the records. All of them. Title, tax history, mortgage status. Everything's still in my name. Then I pulled up a second tab and opened my cloud drive. Backed up footage from the hidden hallway camera. I scrubbed to the night I was hit. Frame by frame, I watched her. Cassandra walking past my study. She paused, looked around, opened the drawer where I kept my deed folder. I'd moved the originals to a bank deposit box 3 years ago, but she didn't know that. She thought she'd found something useful. She took the folder, disappeared into the living room. Minutes later, she returned, empty-handed. Whatever she took, she kept. I picked up my phone and dialed someone I hadn't spoken to in 7 years. Frank, the voice said groggy. Peter, I need a lawyer. A pause, then a sigh. What happened? I told him everything. The fall, the locks, the hospital, the listing. Peter, once my colleague, now ran a boutique law firm downtown. He had gray in his beard now, and less patience for BS. Email me the footage and the title record, he said. Don't confront her yet. Let me verify everything first. And Frank, yeah, don't go back there alone. Of course I did. That Sunday, I parked 3 houses down from mine and walked the rest of the way. Open house day. A small white sandwich board was posted on the sidewalk. Open house today. 4BR/3BA, fully renovated. I stood across the street, behind Paul's truck. Watched strangers walk through my front door like it was a museum exhibit. They strolled into my kitchen. They leaned on my banister. One woman even sat in my reading chair on the porch like she owned the place. Cassandra was standing in the entryway, smiling, handing out brochures. She wore my wife's old scarf. I snapped a photo from my phone. Then another. Faces. License plates. The agent sign. Everything. And then I saw her do it. She handed a clipboard to a man in a suit. Offers accepted on the spot, she told him. First come, first served. My fist clenched so hard the phone nearly cracked in my hand. That was it. She wasn't just squatting. She was committing felony real estate fraud in broad daylight. Back at the office, I compiled everything. Video of her searching my drawers, the realtor listing, the photos from the open house, the title history in my name, and most importantly, the deed in my safety deposit box. Peter called the next morning. She's insane, he said, but reckless. That's good for us. We can stop the sale before it happens. What I need to do, meet me at the courthouse. Today, by 3 p.m., we had filed an emergency injunction, a temporary restraining order to halt any sale or transfer of the property, and a cease and desist order delivered directly to the listing agent, along with a letter of liability. Peter looked at me as we left the courthouse. She's not going to like this. I'm counting on it. That night, I sat in the dark office and watched the cameras. At 11:32 p.m., Cassandra came home. She looked flustered, keys shaking in her hand. She stormed inside, slammed a drawer, threw papers across the kitchen. Then she picked up her phone. I couldn't hear the call, but I read her lips. He's supposed to be gone. He was supposed to be out of the picture. She paced. No, I don't know how he blocked the sale. But if this doesn't go through, we're screwed. Then she said it. I should have finished the job. I paused the video, rewound, played it again. Same words, same lips. Finish the job. I leaned back in the chair, heart steady. She thought she could erase me, replace me, sell my life to the highest bidder. But she forgot who I was. This was my house, and I was still alive. The restraining order bought me time, but not peace. Cassandra stopped answering her phone, and the listing vanished from every real estate site within 12 hours. On paper, it looked like I'd won. But I knew better. People like her don't stop when you corner them. They shift. They change their game. 3 days later, I drove past the house again. I shouldn't have, but curiosity is poison for old men like me. The porch lights were on, curtains drawn, a private property, no trespassing sign nailed to my own fence. I parked 2 blocks away and waited until midnight. Then I walked home. My home. The gate creaked the same way it always had, a sound only I could love. The air smelled like cedar and rain. I used the spare key I'd hidden years ago inside the bird feeder pole, the one she'd never noticed. My fingers trembled as I pushed it into the lock. It didn't fit. She'd changed them all. So I went around the back, toward the small basement window I'd once used when I accidentally locked myself out 20 years ago. The frame was old but loose. I pried it open with a screwdriver and slid inside. The smell hit me first. Bleach. Fresh paint. Perfume that wasn't hers. I turned on my small flashlight. My living room was unrecognizable. Furniture gone. Walls painted gray. Photos removed. Every trace of my wife gone. I moved down the hall toward my study. The door was open. My desk, the heavy oak one I built myself, had been dragged into the corner. The drawers were pulled out, papers shredded and piled like trash. The bookshelves, once lined with my journals, were bare. But one thing was left. A cardboard box on the desk, labeled to donate. Inside were my wife's things, her Bible, her nursing badge, our wedding photo. The glass was cracked. And under that, I found something new. A stack of printed emails. My emails. Sent from my old account to Cassandra's name, or so it appeared. Except they weren't mine. The timestamps didn't match, and the language wasn't how I wrote. They were forged. Messages proving I had transferred power of attorney to her months earlier. It was a setup, a paper trail. She was trying to make it look legal. I took photos of everything. The fake documents, the empty shelves, the box with Marta's name. Then I pulled up the hidden camera app again. The small lens inside the grandfather clock was still active. Cassandra hadn't found that one. I scrubbed through the last week of footage. Frame after frame of her pacing through my study, opening drawers, taking photos of my files. One night, she sat at my desk for hours, typing on my old laptop, printing documents. At 2:14 a.m., a man appeared. Younger, tall, carrying a briefcase. She handed him the papers. He nodded, counted something, money, and left. When she turned back to the camera, she smiled. The next morning, I showed everything to Peter. He frowned. She's building a false record. Probably trying to establish retroactive control. Make it look like she's been managing your affairs. Forgery, I said flatly. Yes, but hard to prove without forensic data. We'll need the originals. I know where she keeps her files, I said. In the garage. She uses an old safe. My wife's. Peter sighed. Frank, don't. I built that safe, Peter. You think I can't open it? That night, I went back again. The motion lights on the driveway flicked on as I approached. My heart pounded steady but calm. I moved along the fence, ducked low, and slipped through the side entrance. The garage was dark, except for the hum of the freezer. There was the old metal safe, half covered with boxes. I knelt beside it and brushed off the dust. The keypad was worn, same one I'd installed in '98. I entered the code. It beeped red. She'd changed it. I grinned. She'd forgotten one thing. The backup manual override key slot, hidden under the rubber foot pad. I pried it off, inserted the small key I'd made decades ago. The lock clicked open. Inside were stacks of documents. My deed copies, my insurance, Marta's letters, all sealed in plastic sleeves. And in the back, a folder labeled Whitmore case. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, court forms, even a printed draft of an obituary. Mine, Franklin Whitmore, passed peacefully at home. My throat went dry. The date on the draft was next month. She wasn't planning to stop with fraud. She was planning to finish what she started. I scanned every page, stuffed copies into my jacket, and locked the safe again. On my way out, I glanced once more toward the study and froze. Cassandra was standing in the hallway. Her face was pale, her hair messy. In her hand, my old pistol, the one I hadn't seen in years. "Frank," she whispered, "you shouldn't be here." The gun trembled in her grip, but her eyes were steady. Neither of us spoke for a full 10 seconds. Then she smiled. "Guess you didn't fall after all." I stepped backward, keeping my voice calm. "Put it down, Cassandra. You don't want to do this." "Oh, I want to," she said. "You ruined everything." She took a step forward. My hand brushed the edge of a metal pipe by the shelf. I gripped it. "I told you to rest, Frank," she said softly. "I try to make it easy for you." The gun clicked. My pulse surged. And then headlights cut across the window. A car pulling up outside. Cassandra's eyes darted to the sound. That half-second was all I needed. I swung the pipe. The gun fell. She screamed. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the end of the street, breath burning, heart hammering like it hadn't in decades. In my pocket, the flash drive with every file, every proof. I wasn't running anymore. I was collecting ammunition. It was just after 2 a.m. when I got back to the office. My shoulder throbbed from the swing, and my hands were shaking from adrenaline. But I had the flash drive. I had the evidence. I plugged it into my laptop, copied every file, and sent it straight to Peter with the subject line. "She has a gun. She's planning something worse." Then I sat back, tried to slow my breathing. But I didn't even make it to dawn. It was 5:13 a.m. when the pounding started on the office door. Not a knock, a hammering fist. I peeked through the blinds. 2 police cruisers. For officers. My stomach dropped. I opened the door slowly. "Can I help you?" "Frank Whitmore," one of them asked. "Yes." "Step outside, sir. Keep your hands where we can see them." "Wait, what's going on?" "Put your hands behind your back." The cuffs went on tight. Too tight. "You're being detained for suspicion of breaking and entering, trespassing, and assault." My blood froze. Cassandra. She called them first. Down at the station, they put me in a cold interview room with a flickering fluorescent light and a metal chair that screamed every time I shifted. The officer across from me wore a blank expression, reading from his notes. "Mr. Whitmore," he began, "according to the complaint, you entered your former residence without permission, accessed a private safe, and physically attacked the current occupant." "She's not the occupant," I said. "She's my stepdaughter. She broke into my home, changed the locks, stole my documents." He blinked once. "Do you have proof of ownership?" I exhaled. "Yes. The title is in my name. I have it on record. I also have video proof that she assaulted me weeks ago." He glanced at the door. "We'll verify that. You'll also find documents in that house, forged emails, fake power of attorney, and even a draft obituary. She's planning something far worse." He paused, finally looking up at me. "An obituary? Dated for next month." That made him shift in his seat. "Do you have a lawyer?" I emailed him everything at 2:30 a.m. Peter arrived 40 minutes later, breathing hard, his hair a mess. He carried a brown folder stuffed with printed documents. "You okay?" he asked. "I've been better. They're reviewing your materials." I called in a judge. "You brought a judge?" He nodded. "Emergency petition for return of property and revocation of her temporary guardianship status." "She filed guardianship?" Peter looked at me grimly. "Last week. Claimed mental decline. Submitted falsified medical forms and forged emails. Said you were a danger to yourself." I shook my head slowly. She had it all lined up. "Yes," he said, "but she didn't plan on you surviving that fall. Or swinging back." By noon, they let me go. The cuffs came off, but the sting in my wrist stayed. A different officer, younger, more alert, handed me a copy of the report. "We're not pressing charges at this time, but stay available." Peter drove me back to the office. We didn't speak much. Both of us knew the game had changed. Now it was public. We were on her radar, and she was dangerous when exposed. That afternoon, Cassandra held a press conference. I didn't see it live, Peter did. A local reporter reached out, asking for comment. Apparently, she'd gone in front of news cameras outside the house, tears in her eyes, saying, "I've done nothing but care for my stepfather. He's old, confused. He broke into our home, attacked me with a pipe. I feared for my life." She even had a bruise painted on her arm. Fake. Poorly done. But TV doesn't show fine details. The headlines rolled in by evening. Local woman claims abuse from elderly relative. Man arrested after breaking into daughter's home. It didn't matter that I wasn't charged. The narrative was already spinning. Peter leaned against the office wall, arms crossed. She's going full manipulation mode. Sympathy, victimhood, public support. I rub my temples. And if I say a word, I'm the crazy old man yelling at clouds. "She's framing you for the fall too," he added. "Says you were unstable, and she found you unconscious after an episode. She hit me with a goddamn lamp." "We know," he said, "but now we have to prove it to everyone else." That night, I reviewed every hidden camera angle again. Every timestamp, every frame of her deleting files, pocketing documents, and calling someone with phrases like, "He won't be around much longer." One video stood out. It was dated a week before my fall. Cassandra in my study, talking on speakerphone. "If I get the house in my name, it's a done deal. He's too stubborn to sign, but with a fall and a doctor's note, it's easy." The person on the line laughed. She continued, "I've got it all figured out. Guardianship hearings in place. All I need now is one more push." I sent the file to Peter. His reply was short. "This is it. We go to court." 2 days later, Cassandra showed up at my office. Just walked in like nothing had happened. I stood up fast, heart racing, reaching for the drawer where I'd stashed my old revolver. Unloaded, but she didn't know that. She closed the door behind her, smiling. "You got lucky, old man," she said. "But I always land on my feet." "Not this time," I said. She stepped closer. "You really want to do this, Frank? You really want your friends, your neighbors, everyone seeing you drag into court? You'll be the headline. The crazy widower. You think anyone will care about your evidence?" I didn't answer. She leaned in, voice low. "I took your house. I took your things. I almost took you. You got a little break, but it won't last." I stared into her face. "You're already finished," I said. "You just don't know it yet." She laughed. Then she left. Peter walked in 10 minutes later, waving a court order. "She's officially barred from the property. Sheriff's Department is escorting us in tomorrow." "Good," I said, because I was done waiting. I was taking my life back. The deputy pulled into the driveway just past 9 a.m. A young guy, barely 30, buzz cut, sharp eyes, hand resting casually near his holster. He didn't look at me like I was a criminal. That was new. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." The front gate swung open with one slow creak. I hadn't heard that sound in weeks, but it felt like a drumbeat in my chest. This house, my house, used to smell like wood oil and coffee. Now it smelled like lemon bleach and something artificial. Like a stage. "Place is supposed to be vacant," the deputy said. "But if anyone's inside, I'll handle it." I nodded, but I was already moving. The front door still had her cheap little live, laugh, love sign on it. I ripped it down with one hand. Then I stepped inside. Everything felt wrong. Not just changed, violated. The carpets were gone. My bookshelves were empty. Marta's rocking chair had vanished, replaced by a fake leather sectional and a flat-screen TV still tagged from the electronics store. Our wedding photo, the one that hung above the mantel for 35 years, was missing. In its place, a giant canvas print of Cassandra and her dog. The deputy whistled low. "Looks like she moved in hard." I went room to room. My study gutted. Files gone. My old army trunk, the one I'd kept sealed for decades, was split open and emptied. She hadn't just taken over. She'd scrubbed me out. In the kitchen, she'd installed new cabinets. Cheap, prefabricated junk nailed over solid oak. Labels were still taped to the doors. I pulled one open and laughed. Canned soup. 38 identical cans. Like she was playing house. Then I found the wine cellar. She turned it into a walk-in closet. Racks of designer clothes, still with tags. Jewelry boxes. A Louis Vuitton bag worth more than my first car, all bought with money that wasn't hers. Peter arrived 20 minutes later with the court official and a locksmith. Papers signed, locks changed again, inventory logged. By noon, Cassandra was legally out, but the damage was permanent. The deputy handed me a folder. "You're secure now, Mr. Whitmore. If she steps foot on the property, call us immediately." I thanked him and shut the door behind him. Then I leaned against it and finally exhaled. This was still my house, but it didn't feel like home. That night, I stayed in the guest room. The master bedroom, our bedroom, was stripped bare. The bed frame gone, the closet hollow. She'd painted over the mural Marta, and I had done by hand 20 years ago. I stared at the gray wall for hours. I didn't cry. I'd done that already, on the hallway floor with blood in my hair. This time I planned. Over the next 2 days, I pieced everything together. Receipts, bank transfers, copies of forged documents. Peter helped me organize it into timelines and reports. We submitted it all to the county court with a request to press formal charges: fraud, elder abuse, identity theft, and unlawful guardianship. Then we filed a civil suit for damages. She was about to lose more than just a house. But just when I thought the storm had passed, it came back. I was in the basement digging through old boxes when I found the USB drive. Not mine, not labeled, just tucked inside an old shoebox beneath some winter coats. A backup she must have forgotten. I took it upstairs, plugged it in. There were dozens of audio files, recordings of me, some real, casual conversations I barely remembered. But most of them were wrong, spliced, edited, fabricated. "I'm thinking about ending it," my voice said. "She'd be better off with the house." Then another. "I'm confused all the time. I forget where I am. Maybe I need help." I sat back in a chair, jaw clenched. She wasn't just forging documents. She was building a false persona, crafting a digital version of me to support her lies. Even after I was gone, Peter's face turned white when I played it for him. "This is next level," he muttered. She was laying groundwork for a full legal euthanasia case. That's why the obituary draft had no autopsy note. She wanted it to look natural, I said. He nodded slowly. "If you hadn't woken up, they'd have believed all of this." I went to the sheriff with the new files. They opened a deeper investigation. This time, the tone changed. The detective assigned to the case asked about Cassandra's past, if she'd ever done this before, if I'd seen her with someone else, a partner, maybe someone coaching her. I told them everything I remembered, and that's when it all started unraveling. They found 2 other elderly men connected to Cassandra, both deceased. One in Florida, another in Arizona. One was her former employer, the other her godfather. Both had listed her as emergency contact. Both had transferred assets to her within months of dying. Suddenly, I wasn't just a survivor. I was a witness. The house became evidence. The fake documents, the voice files, the forged emails, all logged, photographed, tagged. Detectives moved in and out for days. I stayed in a motel on the edge of town, watching everything from a distance. But the night before I was supposed to testify before the state board, I got a phone call. Blocked number. I answered. "Frank," she whispered. "You think this is over?" I didn't speak. "You don't know who you're messing with." Then the line went dead. The moment she hung up, I knew she was nearby. That wasn't some international call from a beach in Belize or a jungle in Costa Rica. I could hear the wind chimes. Mine, on the porch of the cabin up north. She didn't know I'd put them there last spring. A small thing, sentimental. Marta loved the sound of those chimes when we'd take our fishing weekends. No one else would recognize it, but I did, and that told me everything. Next morning, I packed light. I didn't tell Peter. I didn't call the police. I just left. The sheriff had said she'd skip town. They traced a rental car to the airport and a false ticket to Madrid. They thought she'd boarded. Her passport showed movement. But I didn't buy it. Not for a second. Cassandra was clever, not brave. She'd want to stay close enough to watch the aftermath, to manipulate something from the shadows, just in case. And if she was hiding, there was only one place she'd go. The old lake cabin I'd inherited from my father, left untouched for years, too remote for weekenders, too boring for thieves. A place only family would know. I reached it by late afternoon. The gravel road was half washed out, trees leaning low, the dock crooked from the last storm. But the gate was unlocked, and there were fresh tire marks in the dirt. My heart started hammering. I parked far back, killed the engine, and walked the last quarter mile. As I came around the bend, I saw it, a flicker of movement through the curtains. A shadow crossing the window. She was here, alone. I stepped up to the porch, slow and quiet. The door was shut but not locked. Typical Cassandra, bold when she thought no one was watching. I didn't kick it in, didn't shout. I just opened it like it was still my place. Because it was. The smell hit me first, wine, cheap perfume, and something burnt. Probably the truth. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, swirling a glass of Chardonnay, wearing a hoodie that wasn't hers. She turned slowly when I walked in, like she'd expected me. Maybe she had. Well, she said. Didn't think you'd figure it out this fast. I built this place, I said. Every nail. You think I wouldn't recognize the chimes? She laughed once. Dry. Bitter. You always did notice the things no one else did. I didn't move closer. I gave you a chance, I said. You could have stayed gone. She leaned on the counter, sipping casually. Frank, she said, what exactly do you think you're going to do now? Call the cops? Drag me out in cuffs? You think they care where I am? They already think I'm on another continent. Doesn't matter what they think. You're done. She walked toward me, slow, calculating. You don't have it in you, she said. You couldn't even pull the trigger that night in the office. I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. From my coat pocket, I pulled out the old tape recorder, analog, noisy, and legally admissible. I hit stop. She froze. I rewound 5 seconds and played her own words back to her. Didn't think you'd figure it out this fast. They already think I'm on another continent. You don't have it in you. I watched her face shift. Amusement to confusion, confusion to fear. A full minute passed before she spoke again. You won't get me with that, she whispered. Maybe not today, I said. But soon. I stepped back toward the door. I've already sent the file to Peter. He's with the detectives right now. They're coming. And when they get here, I want them to see you like this. No lies, no makeup, no lawyer in your ear. Just you. Exposed. She lunged. Fussed. But I was ready. She went for the tape recorder. Not the knife on the counter. Not the phone, the evidence. That told me everything I needed. I twisted away, letting her hit the floor shoulder first. She scrambled up, screaming, knocking over the wine bottle. You ruined everything, she shrieked. No, I said. You did. I left her there, pacing in circles like a trapped animal, muttering threats under her breath. I waited at the dock. 10 minutes later, I saw the first patrol car crest the hill, then another, and finally, Peter's truck. He jumped out, face pale, waving papers. She's done, he said. They just issued a warrant. I nodded. She's inside. 2 deputies went in. I didn't follow, but I listened. I heard shouting, then screaming, then silence. They walked her out in cuffs, her hoodie soaked in wine, her hair wild. She looked at me. Not angry, not smug. Just small and afraid. Back in town, the news spread fast. Fugitive caught at remote property. Stepdaughter accused in elder abuse case. New evidence links woman to multiple elderly victims. People stopped whispering and started apologizing. The house, my house, was returned in full. Court sealed her access to all bank accounts. Civil suits were greenlit in Florida and Arizona. Peter said federal charges might follow. But none of that gave me Marta's mural back, or the smell of morning coffee, or the quiet. That night, I sat in the hallway, right where it started. The dried blood had long since been cleaned, the floorboards polished, the lights replaced. But I remembered the weight of my own body slumped there. The cold, the silence, the betrayal. And I swore, she will never do this to anyone again. They sentenced her to 14 years. 5 counts of elder fraud, 2 of attempted identity theft, 1 of obstruction of justice. No parole for the first 7. She didn't cry, just stared ahead like she was watching someone else's trial. People clapped in the courtroom. Peter squeezed my shoulder. And me? I didn't feel a damn thing. Back in house, everything was right again on paper. Title restored. Funds recovered. Locks changed. New bed, new coffee maker, new photographs hung with trembling hands. But a home isn't made of paper, and silence isn't peace. It's just the echo of what was lost. I still find things she touched. A lipstick stain behind the bathroom mirror. A cigarette burn under the dining room table. Scratches on the floor where Marta's chair once rocked. No matter how much I clean, it's like she left scars under the wood. One night, I found her old planner wedged behind the fridge. Half-torn pages. Scribbled notes. Code names. Initials. Two names circled. George M. and Ellis T. I don't know who they were. I gave it to the sheriff anyway. They opened 2 new investigations. Turns out, Cassandra wasn't just a con artist. She was a serial predator. They moved her to a federal facility in Arizona. Minimum security, surrounded by sand and fences that barely cast shadows. No visitors allowed for the first year. But last week, I got a letter from her. No return address. Just 6 words on a torn sheet of legal paper. I learned it from watching you. I burned it. Didn't even finish reading. They ask if I'm angry. I'm not. They ask if I'm happy. I'm not that either. What I am is aware of how fast people change, of how quiet betrayal sounds when it walks on familiar floors, of how evil doesn't always snarl. Sometimes it smiles and calls you dad. The house is quieter now. Not peaceful, just clearer. I wake early, water the porch plants, write longhand in a leather journal. Sometimes Peter joins me for breakfast. Sometimes the sheriff calls to update me on the civil cases. But mostly it's just me. And the wind. I kept one thing of hers. A necklace. Not expensive. Not even real silver. Just a fake locket she used to wear when she wanted sympathy. She always touched it when lying. I keep it in a drawer next to the revolver she never found. Not out of hate. Out of memory. A reminder of how far I let things slip. And how far I came back. One morning, I went to the local diner. First time since the trial. People stared when I walked in. Some nodded. One older woman, Lillian, came up to me, hands trembling. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "My nephew, he believed her. He said terrible things about you. He wants to apologize." I looked her in the eye and smiled. "Then tell him he's welcome to stop by." She blinked. I went back to my coffee. Peace isn't a return to the past. It's a decision to stay in the present. To own what's yours. To forgive yourself for not seeing it coming. To remember without drowning. 2 weeks ago, the sheriff called again. Turns out Cassandra's appeal was denied. She won't see a courtroom again until she's almost 50. And me? I'll still be here. Alive. Sharp. And waiting. Not for revenge, but for justice to stay. Because the truth is, peace didn't come when they locked her up. It came the day I stood in my own hallway again and didn't feel fear. Just the floor beneath my feet. And my name on the deed.